The reason is actually FOMO.
Yeah. Okay. So
Fear
it's
of missing out.
an emotional thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about AI, so artificial intelligence, right? So is it fundamental or is it a bubble, all the money that's gone in? And of course, I write about the dot-com bubble, which is the 1990s equivalent. Oh my God, you could buy something on the internet and not have to go to a physical store. Is it fundamental or is it a bubble? And if you suffer from FOMO, which everyone does, it's human nature, you are going to pile in. And that is why you always end up with these financial, bubbles. And if there's a bubble, there's a bust. And that's actually why we always have financial bubbles. And not all of them become great crashes, but the regularity of financial bubbles is just down to human nature.
Because the promise of the dot-com bubble kind of delivered just 20 years later than everyone bet. And people bought a load of crap along the way, didn't they? That was the problem, Because if you look at this idea around the 90s of, I think there was a quote in Wired at the time that was like, we're about to see a 25-year explosion in productivity that's going to, double economic output. And if you look, they were right. There was just this massive dip because of the exuberance. You look at the common features that every crash has.
Yes.
One of them is that kind of exuberance. You said it's hard to tell if something is fundamentally rising in value as a bubble or a crash, but you always point to debt as one of the reasons. Can you just explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, so the dot-com bubble is a great example of irrational exuberance. That's actually when the term was phrased. So another way to think about FOMO is you see something and you think, wow, I mean, Bill Gates just said AI is going to fundamentally transform. And so therefore you feel exuberant, you feel euphoria, you feel like I need to be part of that. So that is the first phase of all great crashes, because you can't crash unless you have a bubble. However, what makes it a great crash is whether or not you pile in by borrowing a lot of money or debt. So if your piling in is financed through lots of leverage, through lots of debt, then when the bubble bursts, you may find that you can't repay it. And that's actually why my suggestion in the book is we will always be subject to FOMO because it's really hard to tell. However, just don't pile in with too much debt.
The '08 crash would be an example of a speculative bubble that was fueled by debt, but this time it was property, right?
Yeah.
The idea that property would always go up would be the exuberance.
Yeah, so I read about Japan, and there was this feeling that Japan, remember, had the biggest real estate crash in the early 1990s. But there was just this belief that property prices can ever only go up. And then the banks got involved, they lent money, and now you can see where the story headed, which is you borrow a lot of money, you yourself can't repay it, and now you've borrowed it from the banks. Now the banks are in trouble because what they lent against, the collateral, has lost its value. So now when you drag the banks down, then a banking crash, which is among the worst financial crises, those tend to be great crashes. And we don't even have to look that far. We can look at, if you talk to your friends and colleagues, here, house prices is one of the most common topics in the pub or, over dinner, over lunch. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen to the housing market? Surely with all the supply constraints, they can only ever go up. So I think, we are all, party to this.
That was a clip from a recent conversation we had with Linda Yu about financial crashes. If you want to see the full episode, then just click here.